This is a very quick video response to George Gammon's interview with Michelle McCory on Kitco. Now, George is unbelievably smart. Michelle's a very smart lady too. And Kitco is a phenomenal program. I want to say that up front. They're talking about Bitcoin and BlackRock, and we've got a guy on a massive power boat, cigarette boat over here. It's going to fly by in a second, so that's what you might hear. And actually, I might have to just show you. And they were talking about Bitcoin, how BlackRock, Fink's gonna, they got, they're into mining now, and they're Bitcoin, and it's kind of like, And George is saying that we don't Now that's a rooster tail right there, folks, children, big old rooster tail. They're saying that, George is like, oh, it's great and all, you might have to talk to my friend Lynn Alden about Bitcoin a little bit more. However, and I actually fought with George about this on a Twitter Spaces on Bitcoin, Cafe Bitcoin before. I not fought, but debated him. And we actually went back and forth for a few minutes about this very topic. And, he said, that's great and all this money. And it might be awesome for like 10 or 20 years. And then we're going to go right back to people at the top breaking the rules and doing all kinds of funny business and destroying our money. And at the end of the day, that's where George is fundamentally wrong. And that's exactly what I was talking to him about. Clearly didn't make any headway with him, unfortunately. This is probably 6 months ago. And what and then he says in the interview, Bitcoin doesn't change you. Bitcoin doesn't change people. George's massive argument, at least from my perspective, what it seems like, and George, you correct me if I'm wrong, but his massive argument is education. You're not going to change the hardwiring of people without education, without them seeing what's happening. So people making the logical changes in their life to use the best money possible and to not have people continually steal from them through inflation and printing of currency and things of that nature. However, this is the problem, and this is what I was trying to tell George, get my point across, was that might be great for a generation or two or even 3 generations, but what happens in the fourth turning? What happens every 100 years when the whole society turns over and not one person was alive for that event that happened? We're getting close to those events with Pearl Harbor, with World War II, with fascism, and like all these different things are going on, communism, that are very closely linked. And people are going to try to argue with me on that, but they're closely linked. It's a spectrum, right? Communism and fascism are very close to each other on the spectrum. People look at it as like just right and left, and on a line they go out facing each other farther and farther away. But really, political ideologies are a spectrum. It's a circle, and so the farther you get from each other, the closer you actually become. That's the insidiousness and the secrecy of it all, and that's what people really have a hard time understanding. This is something for 20 years that I've studied and really looked at with psychology and philosophy. Anyway, not to digress, but when the society turns over and completely turns, then what? When no one remembers those events, you're going to have the same problems coming up again, no matter what money you use. This is always going to be a problem. So George's education argument is like, we just got to educate people. That's wonderful in a vacuum, and that's wonderful like theory, but it doesn't work long term. You then still have to keep trusting rulers and not rules. This is where Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, true Bitcoiners, actually get what's going on. Bitcoiners want the same thing. We want to re-educate the public into sound money, into objective truth, and submitting to the truth, and only truth. That is what we want. We want merit-based economies. We want our property rights. We want our wealth. We want everyone in the world to be able to attain that same goal and those same virtues. That is it. Not be told what to do by overarching overlords and not tell other people what to do. That is the ethos of Bitcoiners, of libertarians, etc. And many conservatives, honestly, and many liberals in the current modern form of the word here in America, quite honestly. We all have much more similarities in all of us than we do apart, or what we differ on. The vast majority of people, 90% of people believe on 90% of things, actually, but the media and school and academia tells you that you don't. That's, again, one of the insidious things that we talk about here all the time. So at the end of the day, again, Bitcoin does change you. And George, how do I know that? Because it's changed my life. And a million people that I've seen, not a million, but a couple hundred, 1,000 people that I know in the Bitcoin space, has completely changed their life. Having hope, actually changing the way they live, the investments they're making, the number of children they're having, because they are Bitcoiners, because they say the hardest money ever known to human beings. There's a saying, again, that you don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. It's rules, not rulers. 1,000 years from now, we don't have to trust that people are educated on the system. That's the beautiful part about Bitcoin. The rules work. The system works. The protocol works no matter if I'm here today or if I'm gone tomorrow or if I'm gone 1,000 years from now. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. That's the beauty of the protocol. That's the beauty of the incentive structure and the properties that Bitcoin contains. Period. End of story. So to George and many people like him that are right there, they are almost Bitcoiners. They almost get it. They're almost truly orange pilled, and they are Bitcoiners. They just don't know it yet, and believing that that's the way to change the system. I don't know what George advocates for otherwise. I don't know if it's military coups. I don't know if it's trying to vote in an election. Good luck with that. As we've seen over the last number of decades, handful of decades, really 100 years, good luck. When you're fighting a system that can print endless amounts of currency and steal your time and energy away from you, so you all get poor, everyone, all the 99% of people get poor and poor and poor and enslaved more and more and more through the bond system, they get to take that time and energy and wealth and spray it back across the population through propaganda, through education camps, which is formal schools, government-run schools, and media, and politics, and they get to beat you over the head with it and keep re-educating people and keep changing people back into these drones, NPCs. What do you expect? How do you, George, honestly, how do you expect to win that fight eventually? When do you win that fight? There's no good outcome. And that's why Bitcoin is the hope we have, aside from God himself and in humbling ourselves and a higher entity, right? I'm talking about the worldly world that we live in, not the divine world we live in. But I'm talking about what is the hope. I'm not putting my hope anymore. We've had 100 years. We've had thousands of years to try to educate the public and try to see, oh, look at that failed. Look at communism didn't work. That didn't work. Look at socialism didn't work. Trying to just spread the wealth around, like Obama said, to Joe the plumber who just passed away, R.I.P. That obviously doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work, or else we would be getting better in society. We'd have less inflation. We'd have more productivity, more GDP. People would be able to purchase more things, be able to afford more houses. We can't. It's opposite. So clearly those things don't work. Communism doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. Redistributing the wealth. We need to go back to a sound money system. And gold and silver haven't worked for thousands of years because it keeps getting centralized. It can't move over space. It cannot meet the speed of commerce. So we have to have a system that works. Bitcoin is the only thing humans have ever discovered with those perfect monetary qualities, the most perfect money we've ever had. So that's my plea to George and everyone like him, and many of my friends, many people I know. There are many people I know that are Bitcoiners, fortunately, and many people that I've helped educate Orange Pill. There's some that have helped educate me, right? But there are many more people that are right there. They're right there. They don't spend all their time working on education of Bitcoin and helping people understand sound money, but they're right there. They would if they knew how important this was to their life. They would if they could just get over that hump. And that's my plea to George. That's my plea to anyone who is thinking about this and keeps being told about it, keeps coming up. They keep seeing it in the news. Don't let the BlackRock stuff, ESG, all this garbage, complete FUD, complete nonsense. No one has control over the protocol. No one's going to control it. We're past that point. It's not 2010 anymore. It's not 2011 anymore. So we're way past all of that. We have to start learning how to change the world, the hope. Getting off the fiat legacy monetary Titanic and getting onto the Bitcoin life raft. That's the only hope. You have to have a new system you're going to. Because trying to re-educate people in the current system, again, when you are being beat over the head by your own time and energy being stolen from you and just being poured back through megaphones and propaganda back onto the populace, good luck, because we are living that world. Just look at any school system, any government-run school, any higher education, university. Just look what we're dealing with. It ain't going back the other way. The only other way is if there's massive trauma in life, right? Asteroid hitting the Earth type of event, and people learn. It's like, oh, there's a new enlightenment. Like, yeah, sound monetary policy and merit-based world is how we need to live. But again, 100 years from now, as George says, 10, 20 years from now, that's gone. People start making the same mistakes over again. So we need rules, not rulers. We need to take the monetary properties and the monetary resources we use and put them into protocol, put them into indestructible protocol that can last for thousands of years instead of the hands of fallible men and women. So I appreciate you. Please share this out. Please share this with George. Algorithm hates truth, so there's a great chance he won't see it. I appreciate you coming to my TED Talk. Question everything with boldness, even existence of God himself. Trust but verify, not financial advice, it's freedom advice, and I'll see you on the next one.